Hello, and we welcome you back to Hawk Talk, and we have a treat here this evening. I'm Eddie Occupancy, happy to have you along as always, as not a coach this evening, but a former standout student athlete and an alum who's doing big things right now in the real world joins us tonight. But before we bring him in, I want to remind you, if you've missed any of our previous conversations, 25 in all, with tonight being episode number 26, you can check them out in a variety of places. MonmouthHawks.com, our YouTube page as well, as in the video tab right here on the Monmouth Athletics Facebook page. As without further ado, please help me welcome our guest this evening. Bryce Wasserman joins me. And Bryce, we've got so much to talk about, but before we do any of that, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Eddie. I am so pumped to be back here. Anything that has to do with supporting Monmouth and coming back, even if it's virtually, I'm here to do it, right? So it's great to be here with you.
Well, it's been quite the whirlwind for you, really, since you left Monmouth, but specifically the last few months. We're going to talk about all of it, but this evening you're coming to us from your new home, from Texas to Jersey, and now in Miami. And how is everything in South Florida here this evening?
Everything's great. Just started my second week of my second year of law school. Everything's been going really well. Wrapped up trademarks law about 2 hours ago, and now I'm here to talk with you. So yeah, it couldn't be better.
I like how you just casually dropped trademarks law, transitioning right into Hawk Talk. If you have a question for Bryce, whether it's lacrosse related from his time at Monmouth, from that amazing run that he had just a few short weeks ago in the MLL law school, it's all on the table here this evening. You can submit it into our Facebook live chat, and Bryce and I will make sure to get those questions in for a gentleman who has had quite the busy run. We know everyone is working from home and working remotely, but Bryce is one of the few that had some experience playing professional sports, the second Monmouth athlete ever to win a championship in his league. So Bryce, before we start with all that, let's take a step back. I know your family, so engaged, the lacrosse family, the athletic family that you are. How are they doing with everything that's going on?
Yeah, everyone's great. My dad got his competitive fix, able to watch me play. Mom might be the most competitive out of the whole family, so I know she was watching intently this summer, which was great to have their support. Younger brother Casey just started his senior year at Towson University, where he's playing lacrosse. Couldn't be more excited for him, trying to lead that Towson team, kind of make a comeback to the Final Four. Hopefully they'll see Monmouth down the line. But and then my youngest brother, Drew, just graduated high school. I know it's tough for him with COVID and all of that, kind of robbing him of his senior season, but he actually just checked in to the dorms at Utah 2 weeks ago, where he's actually going to be playing lacrosse. So we're all busy. Everyone's back at their respective places on campus. Parents are empty nesters. So it was definitely an eventful summer, but we're all back where we should be right now.
And your journey has been quite a remarkable one. And thankfully, you and I have had the chance to speak a few times, both your time at Monmouth and since leaving. And we're going to get into really all of that here tonight. And your journey right now has taken you to a pretty cool place. You didn't just get 2 degrees from Monmouth. You then continued your education, like you said, down at the University of Miami Law School. And you have a master's already, right? You have obviously the few degrees from Monmouth. What was the motivation to head down to South Florida and to go to Miami to continue your studies?
Law school was always a dream of mine, and I think it was always on the table for me, just kind of in the back of my head, going up to Monmouth. It's a great business school. When I had the opportunity to get the master's there and stay for the extra year and coach the team, that was something that I couldn't pass up, right? But I think I knew law school was something I wanted, and shout out to Professor Tetro and the rest of the legal studies department, political science. They do an awesome job getting everyone involved that wants to be involved and giving you guidance. So when I was a junior at Monmouth, I was able to make the decision that law school is something that I wanted to do. And I'm very interested in sports and entertainment law, and kind of doing some Google searches, saw beautiful Coral Gables, South Beach, Florida, had the #2 program in the country. So I knew that was something that I wanted to pursue. I was lucky enough to get in, ended up deferring the acceptance so that I could finish my master's at Monmouth and spend an extra year on the beautiful shore before coming down here. But yeah, everything's worked out great. And so, yeah, I'm going into year 2, and it works out perfectly with lacrosse. Classes end, and our season's May through August, and then win a championship and come check right back into school, right? So it's worked out very well.
Well, and since leaving Texas, I detect a theme. You like to be near water. Coming up to Monmouth, a mile from the ocean, you just showed us your shot before we came on air. You've got water in your view from your apartment. So You're a hard man to track down, but I guess if there's water around, you'll be close.
Yeah, just find some sand and I'll be there.
And what was it about, and I'm so curious because when you were at Monmouth, and we're obviously going to go through all of the exploits as you were a part of the landmark program that brought a championship to Monmouth men's lacrosse for Coach Fisher. Were the same things that attracted you to Monmouth similar to what brought you down to Miami? Obviously, two different situations, but two great schools and two great locations. It seems like a thread right there.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good theme, right? And I think something that brought me to Monmouth and something that brought me to Miami was a perfect fit, right? I wanted to play for Coach Fisher at a beautiful school, great academics, right on the Jersey Shore, and it was a perfect fit for me for my 5 years there. And then coming down here to Miami, choosing where I was going to spend 3 years of law school, I think it was kind of the same thing, an up and coming law school program, and a great board of directors that I wanted to kind of study for and do all my research and things like that. And then obviously the beautiful location down here in South Beach. I think it's very similar in a sense.
And obviously there's so much that kind of brings the Bryce Wasserman story forward, whether it's on field, off field. We're talking now about that tremendous academic record that you're continuing, and whether it was on the field or turf at Monmouth and now continuing that over, I guess, into the boardroom if you want to go there. But since being down in Miami, and I know when you and I caught up yesterday, pretty cool some of the opportunities that you get to have now going through law school. I know you're a working man now at a desk at a pretty cool job these last couple of days.
I know, right? Quite the change up in the last month going from the bubble at Navy to behind the desk, but I'm very excited about it. I'm working as a legal intern with the Orange Bowl committee, trying to help them put a game on this year however we can, and it just so happens that Miami is also hosting the College Football Playoff National Championship. So dealing with a lot of legal issues, obviously, with TV contracts, sponsorships, hotels, everything like that, all the agreements with the team. So it's definitely been an interesting first 2 days of work, but I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, not the quiet internship that maybe some of your colleagues have thrown right in, and then the news over the last 48 hours that the Dolphins and Hurricanes are going to allow fans in the stands, hopefully leading towards fans at the national championship. I'm sure you've been just a little busy in now 2 days on the job.
Right, yeah, there's definitely been a few work emails that have rolled in since that announcement, but it's definitely been a great time. I'm excited for it.
If you have a question for Bryce, again, whether it's about lacrosse, whether it's about his law career that is just beginning or his time at Monmouth, please submit it into our Facebook live chat. It is always a great conversation because this conversation is going to go in a variety of places. So I hope you're ready. It's just like Bryce is dodging from behind cage right now. You're not sure which way it's going to go. Bryce, you mentioned it, and we've got to obviously go into detail about the tremendous summer that you had. The first sports bubble, if we want to talk about that we really had on television and everything else was the MLL and what was formed with what you were able to do with the Boston Cannons down into Annapolis, winning a title, winning an MVP award. But let's go even back further than that. When did you all become aware of what the league's goals and plans were to ultimately start playing in Annapolis in July?
Right. I think it was definitely a process. It started way back in March when the NBA canceled and we started getting emails that our season might be on the fritz, with some delays and things like that. I believe in May was when they indefinitely delayed our June start. So that was obviously very discouraging, and no league really had plans at that point yet. So you kind of get discouraged a little bit that pro sports just weren't going to happen this summer. You saw all the tumultuous stuff with the MLB and the NBA and their return to play, and just knowing our situation, we were a little bit discouraged about it. But then moving into June, we started to hear the murmurings that the league was looking to do a bubble and things like that. And so the first thing that you do, obviously, is you hop on a treadmill, right? Because we were hearing the rumors that it was going to be 8 games in 10 days and all this crazy stuff. So first thing you do is hop on a treadmill. Then the second thing you did was call coach. And I credit ESPN and our commissioner, Sandy Brown. Everyone did a really great job of kind of organizing it behind the scenes. And ESPN kind of told us, hey, the NBA is coming back here. We have your guys' contract, right? We can put you on ESPN as long as you're done by when the NBA starts. Whatever you can do is going to be on TV. So I know that the league really wanted that opportunity to be on the national stage and kind of spread the game of lacrosse as one of the first sports back on TV and in a bubble, right? So I think they did an awesome job behind the scenes. And like I said, the nature of our bubble was very, very intense. Just with how quick we played games. Our first 3 days, we played 3 games in 3 days, then had a day off, another game, and I think the championship was game 6 of 8 days. So it was definitely intense. A lot of ice baths. I was getting plugged into IVs every morning, trying to stay hydrated. So yeah, it was an awesome experience though. I wouldn't trade it for anything. We were at the Naval Academy. They took great care of us.
And like you mentioned, it was really made for TV action where there were so many games in so many days and rapid fire. Take us through as much as you can the logistics of that. You know, a basketball team is one thing. A lacrosse team is a significantly bigger team just based on our roster size and who's on the field versus who's on the court. So when you had so many lacrosse teams kind of together, how was safety? How was all that? Did you feel kind of that it was handled? Because like you said, they obviously thought of everything, and whether it was television or safety, it seemed to have gone off pretty smoothly without a hitch. When you were living inside of it, you were able to see that on a day-by-day basis?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of the stuff was handled before we got there, right? Every team had their own ballroom, and all the meals were planned, and just like kind of your team had their own sort of set of protocols, and we had our own medical staff to kind of keep everyone separate, and everyone had their own shuttle buses, and luckily we were at the Westin Annapolis Hotel, and we kind of just had the whole thing, all 6 floors, and the shuttle buses. We were 2.5 miles from the stadium, right down the road, so travel was pretty easy. The meals were great. We all had our own hotel rooms. No one was sharing a bathroom or anything like that. No teams were intermingling. Everyone kind of had their own floor since we're a 16 league and the hotel is 6 stories tall. So I think that just worked out on its own. But yeah, I think everyone did a really great job. I felt very safe the entire time, and it paid off, right? And the league did a good job of, like I said, handling all the things that were outside the field as well as all the things on the field.
Did it have a feel because of the rapid fire nature of the whole league through the playoffs and the championship? Did it have that feel like old school travel kind of lacrosse where you're playing multiple games, maybe, you know, within a quick day span? Did it have that tournament kind of feel to it?
That was the running joke all the way through the tournament, that it was just MLL summer camp, right? It was a summer camp for grown men, because it was the same setup, like you said, when we were all 15, 16 years old going to the recruiting tournaments. It was a game a day for a week. You're all staying in the dorms on top of each other kind of thing. So I think everyone kind of had fun with that. And you know what? Just the way that pro lacrosse is structured, right? It's kind of weekend stuff. So for the people that don't know, everyone kind of flies in for a weekend. You play your game, you practice, you do your thing, and then you fly home, and everyone kind of has their own thing, whether that be training, coaching, or some guys actually do have a desk job just with a really cool boss, essentially. But I think it was something that everyone really enjoyed, having that quality time together, the full 2 weeks there, because usually it's just quick 48-hour hits and then you're back home, right, at your normal life. So I think everyone really enjoyed that extra time that we had to bond, especially me being on a brand new team.
Questions are starting to come in for Bryce Wasserman. If you want to ask the reigning MLL MVP a question, please submit it into our Facebook Live chat. And our first question this evening comes from Steve, who's in Denver, and I'm sure he's probably an Outlaw fan, but Steve is in Denver, and Bryce, he wants to even go further into a great tournament that was run down into Annapolis. And his question, and Steve, thank you for watching tonight, when you got into the postseason and you got into those key games, the championship game, even though it was condensed, did it still have that feel like a championship game, like when you helped Monmouth win a MAC championship? So even though it was condensed, did it still have that rush of a normal postseason game for you?
Yeah, absolutely, right. I mean, I'm a person who gets jacked up to play a pickup game down here in Miami. I treat everything the same, and just with the structure of our league and how everything's set up, and since everything's so small, like I said, there's only 6 teams. You know everyone really well, so even game 1 to the championship game, it's all just as competitive. But absolutely, waking up on that Sunday morning and going to team breakfast and just kind of sitting there with my hands shaking at the breakfast table, I knew that it was going to be something special, kind of those same butterflies that I felt when Monmouth was gearing up for our MAC championship game on national TV. It was kind of the same feeling. So absolutely, it definitely felt like a championship.
The questions continue to come in for Bryce, who, again, just had that magical run with the Boston Cannons. It feels weird saying it was with the Boston Cannons because I know you really didn't get to go to Boston. You were down in Annapolis. But it was really tremendous. We were able to obviously watch it on ESPN, like you said, all the great coverage. And The league seems to get a lot of great media attention from that. You're studying right now law, but like you mentioned, with media and everything else. So knowing how important that was for the MLL to have that center stage and to do what your teammates in the league were able to do, how important is that for the league?
I think it's very special, right? Like I said, I credit our commissioner and our league staff for taking advantage of the opportunity that was presented with kind of the downtime in sports, right? I think lacrosse is one of the best sports on earth and deserves to be viewed more. And I think that we kind of had more eyes than ever on the game, and they brought in world class announcers and they took care of everything on the field. And I think that the guys were kind of more prepared than ever because one, we knew that more eyes were going to be watching us than ever, and people who never watched lacrosse were going to be watching our games. And then having the start of our season taken away from us and kind of having that, we'll call it a 6-week delay in the start of our season, I think everyone was just itching to be out there, and we put a great product on the field. I mean, the team that we assembled in Boston was second to none, right? The trades that we made, we had 6 all-stars on our offensive end. Some of the best defensive players in the world were on that team, and we definitely had a lot of pressure going in and had a couple bumps in the road in the early parts of that week down in the bubble when we were playing games. But I think it showed that the cream really did rise to the top, and we were able to kind of steamroll through those issues that we were having in such a short time, really not having much time to detox and break everything down. So I'm really proud of everything that we were able to do down there.
Now, you make a good point. I think we're seeing it now with the NBA with their bubble scenario where you take away home crowd, you take away those extra added advantages, and it really comes down to what you do on the court or on the field. And like you mentioned, you and your tremendous teammates in Boston really carried through that championship, short week, short preparation, and you really see all that extra fitness that you probably did on your own and everything else come to fruition. And how gratifying, and there's questions coming in, but I got to get this one in, but just how gratifying was that championship knowing that you were able to put it together in such a short window?
Yeah, I think that was the most special part about it. I mean, this championship means just as much as me, if not more, than any of the other MLL championships that have ever happened, just because of the nature of the week. And like you said, just like being able to have that experience with those guys was something I'll never forget. And then obviously winning the MVP and kind of thinking back down the road and how far I'd come, just like all the lacrosse memories that I had as a young kid in Maryland were not good ones, right? Like I really wasn't that great, and kind of having everything come full circle there at Navy Stadium where I've been playing since I first picked up a stick was absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, the career for Bryce it's been quite the journey, and it seems like every step of the way you're finding success, and there's more meaning to it with where you have it happen, like you mentioned down at Navy. We're going to get into that in just a little bit as the questions continue to roll in, and we continue with the theme of winning this championship and being named MVP of the MLL just a few short weeks ago in Annapolis. And Greg is in Spring Lake tonight, and Greg, we appreciate you watching our Hawk Talk. And Bryce, Greg wants to know, was there any extra motivation? Did it mean just a little bit more that you were able to beat the team that drafted you in Denver in the championship?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question, Greg. I wish I was down in Spring Lake having a Spring Laker right now, but absolutely right. I have no hard feelings against that Denver staff. Coach Siemens, their head coach, and he obviously was the one who drafted me, and I was never played right my rookie season and was released. Thank goodness that they did, because that allowed me to get my shot in the league. But it definitely did have a little bit extra meaning being able to do that, because the Denver Outlaws are kind of like the Patriots of the MLL. I think they've been in 15 of the 20 championships the league has had, right? So it definitely had a little bit of extra meaning beating them.
And after that question, it segues right into our next question. Jeff is in Bradley Beach tonight. And Jeff, we appreciate you watching our Hawk Talk with Bryce Wasserman. It is a good question coming in, Bryce. Jeff wants to know how often you're able to practice in the off season with your law school schedule. And also, what does your future look like when it comes to pro lacrosse for you personally?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and it's definitely one of the most interesting parts of my journey, right, is kind of balancing this double life that I'm living down here in Miami. Currently, I am not doing anything. I am kicking my feet up. My hand is very broken on my knuckle. I actually might have to go get surgery, but that's besides the point. I'm hanging out, getting back to my studies. In the next month or so is when I'll kind of kick back up, and the new year is when I usually hit the ground running with my workouts. I like to keep everything 4 days a week, both running, lifting, and lacrosse, doing it all at the same time, because that's just really all the time that I have to go take 2 hours or an hour and a half or so and do my thing. There's a gym right here in Coral Gables, half a mile from campus, and the guy who runs it helps get all the Miami guys ready for pro days and for the NFL Combine. So he definitely helps a lot. That was something that I really liked doing this past spring, and I really think it helped me moving forward into this summer. And then moving forward just down the line of my career, I've got 2 more years of school, so I know I guaranteed have 2 more summers of lacrosse. I want to play as long as I can, but obviously I have to know that one day I will have to grow up and be a lawyer and use this degree at some point, right? So I think that day will come. I can't tell you when it is, but I know I've got 2 more summers and I want to play as long as I possibly can.
Bryce, what kind of time management do you need to be able to balance being a professional athlete in the lacrosse league, going to law school? I know everyone says when you go to college is where you really learn time management, probably through trial and error. But have you always had that ability to kind of juggle multiple things? How challenging has it been for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I learned a lot of it at Monmouth. I think Monmouth student athletes are wired differently than a lot of student athletes in the rest of the country, right? I think we go to a very unique place, and the nature of Monmouth and the small school feel, I think student athletes are kind of looked at a cut above the rest of the students. And I think that student athletes are involved in a lot of things, even though they have a lot on their plate, whether it be MSAC, the student athlete, student council, or just other campus involvements. I think a lot of student athletes did more than I did even now. I mean, you can think about some of the, like Miranda Kay, my girl pops up, the captain of the girls soccer team. I swear she was the president of everything when we were in college. So yeah, that I think it happened at Monmouth, and I know I have a lot of to-do lists. I could take you over my desk. I have like my lacrosse to-do list and my school to-do list. So it's just time to put on my school hat and dive into my books, and then put on my lacrosse hat and dive into that to-do list. So that's really just how I survive.
Well, that's high praise coming from you for some of your classmates. And we all know Miranda well and her championship exploits with the women's soccer program. But when we go back to the time in school, it wasn't just lacrosse. It wasn't just success in the classroom for you. You won the Bill Boylan Award. It's a very prestigious award. It's one of the major awards that the Monmouth Athletics Department gives out. And it's awarded for everything, for what you do on the field, off the field. It's the class at which you do things with. And when you look back and you start now kind of stacking that trophy case, MLL MVP, All MAC honors, the Bill Boylan Award, is there something to this point in your athletic career that maybe means a little bit more than some of the other trophies or championships?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're all the same, right? Because I think they all took the same amount of work. I mean, that Monmouth MAC championship will forever hold number one in my heart, just knowing what that program has been through. I mean, even the year before I got there, the 0-13 start and that 2017 class, I wish I could thank every single one of them right here in a line just for everything that they did for our program, and winning that championship for them and seeing the look on their faces, and having the private graduation ceremony because we missed the actual one. We were in the NCAA tournament, right? I think that memory will definitely always hold number one just because of everything that meant. It was kind of a 5-year culmination in a sense in the development of our program. And I really think that's probably the one that holds most special. Anything that is associated with Monmouth is very special, but I think that's definitely one that will forever stand out to me. And then I'd probably rank the championship and the MVP second, just because my professional career and how it's gone. I think that the journey that I've been through, I definitely put that one second.
And we're going to dive a little bit more into that Monmouth championship and into your great Monmouth career in just a minute, but the questions continue to come in, and we now go back to the questions, and Coach Joe checking in. Joe Compagni watching our Hawk Talk, and Coach, we appreciate you checking out here this evening. And Bryce, Coach Joe has an overall lacrosse fan question for you. I'll frame it like this. Where, in your opinion, are the most loyal college lacrosse fans? Long Island, Baltimore, or upstate New York? You got to pick one of those three. You can't take the Jersey Shore. It's Long Island, Baltimore, or upstate New York.
Coach Joe, thank you for asking the question. I miss being able to bump into you every day at the gates of the track and saying what's up. But I'd say the most loyal is upstate New York, and I know he's going to like that answer. I definitely agree that those upstate New York fans are a different breed.
Well, when you have to contend with that kind of weather and everything else, I think it's hard in hardens you as a fan a little bit.
Right.
And as we continue with Bryce, if you have a question for the law school student second year at the University of Miami, please give us here in our Facebook Live chat. But Bryce, you started to touch on it a little bit with your answer a couple of questions ago, and I think it's going to bring us there now. Right before we came on air here this evening on Hawk Talk, you and I were with Gary, who's producing tonight, catching up, and you shared a pretty interesting story about your recruitment to Monmouth and when Coach Fisher brought you to Monmouth. And ultimately, what became a tremendous move for you and the program was kind of started a little weird. If you want to share with the audience when indeed your recruiting visit was to Monmouth, and I think it's a little fitting with all the wacky weather that we've been seeing, whether it's a few weeks ago here in New Jersey or what's going on now on the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, I mean, it is a funny story, and I'll always joke with Coach Fisher about this, calling him the greatest recruiter in college lacrosse, because my visit to Monmouth with my dad was in November of my junior year in 2013, which was right after Hurricane Sandy hit the Jersey Shore. So I was at Monmouth visiting campus. It was essentially a refuge, and there were trees down everywhere. Everything was still messed up. I remember we took a drive down Ocean Drive, and buildings were turned upside down and things like that. And I still knew that Monmouth was a place I wanted to be because of Coach Fisher and the dream that he kind of pitched to me. And I mean, give credit both ways, because while Monmouth may not have looked as beautiful as it always does, I definitely didn't look like I do now. I was a 16-year-old kid with the braces, 150 pounds, and I had a Justin Bieber comb-over haircut. So you can definitely give credit both ways on that one to Coach Fisher.
And it really is quite a remarkable story, this Monmouth lacrosse program, but your career that led you to Monmouth and then brought you into the MLL. So you make the decision to come to Monmouth, like you mentioned, right after that recruiting visit, right after Hurricane Sandy, and you join a team that was starting to turn the corner from that first season. But what were the things that you noticed right away when you got to Monmouth? Obviously played so much as a freshman. What were the things about the program in those early years that you could see were planting the seeds for what ultimately would result in the championship?
Yeah, I think that I talk about this a lot, especially when I talk to my younger brothers and kids who ask for lacrosse advice. And I think this was instilled in me the day I showed up at Monmouth, was just this ownership that everyone had of that program, especially that first class, right? Usually when you go to a college to play a sport, there's seniors on the team, there's fifth-year seniors, and you kind of defer to them, right? Because they had been through the ringer and it was their show. But just the nature of our team at Monmouth, we had 2 seniors that year and 30-something sophomores and 10, 12 freshmen, right? And so I think that we kind of had no choice but to own that process like we were all seniors at the same time. And I think that led us to not be okay with what was going on with the program and made us want to turn it around so quick. And I think that that's something that stays with me even to this day, is just that ownership that was kind of instilled in me by that, you call it upper class, but they were all sophomores, right? I think the ownership that they all had of that program and the day-to-day process was something that I haven't seen before, and it definitely sticks with me to this day.
And for all of us who got to watch it happen on the field, but also off the field and getting to know you and your teammates, take us kind of into the culture and the makeup of that team. And I know that you mentioned the ownership that everyone took, but what were those kind of deciding factors that pushed that group from a good, scrappy team into a champion?
Yeah, I mean, that group was tough as nails. I mean, everyone's the best kind of guys, and you shake their hand and they get dressed up in their suits, and now they're all fancy businessmen. But I had seen some things from these Philly guys, these Long Island guys. They were a different breed of human being, and I think that toughness that everyone had both on and off the field to just kind of never take no for an answer was something that really helped us kind of turn that corner when the team finally matured and those guys turned into juniors and seniors. I really think that you saw that ownership of the process, and then just how tough and gritty all those guys were. I mean, no one ever, like if I had to compare it to anything, everyone kind of had blinders, right? We'll talk about Monmouth Park and some long days there in the summer. I mean, everyone had those horse blinders on, and there was one mission, and no one was going to let anyone say no to it. And I couldn't be more happy that we accomplished it during their senior year.
When you made that journey from Texas to New Jersey, and like you said, you start to play with players, like you said, Philly, in New Jersey, Long Island, some of those East Coast guys, is that something that was a little bit different from the lacrosse that you had played up until that point? And I'm an East Coast guy. I don't want to seem biased with any of this, but was it that edge and that toughness that you think that pushed that group over the top?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it was, we had a different, like I said, we had a different breed of guys, right? And I think that goes to Coach Fisher's recruiting and the nature of our program. We were a brand new team, and a lot of guys that were on our team kind of slipped through the cracks. Some public school guys, maybe some coaches hadn't seen play before. And I mean, one that stands out is like a Chris Daly, right? And a guy like that just kind of like molding himself into one of the best players in the conference. And when no one really had heard of him coming out of high school, right? Like I think that everyone was already blue collar and gritty, and then they had this chip on their shoulders that we were going to take this thing past any other school in the area. So it was awesome. I can't stop smiling thinking about that team in that year.
And that was still a moment that I think when it happened and that celebration happened on the field, you know, I've been thankful to be at Monmouth a long time, seen a lot of celebrations from teams, but that one, you could see the overcoming with emotion on everyone, the players, the coaches, to know all that hard work that went in, to know where the program was to where it is. That was as genuine and real a celebration as I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was incredible to be a part of. I mean, everyone dumping the water on Coach Fish. And some of the longest hugs with men I've ever had in my entire life were on that day. I mean, like you said, it was a culmination of 4 years of literally from the bottom to the top of our situation, which was incredible to be a part of.
If you have a question for Bryce, again, please submit it into our Facebook Live chat. We have a few more questions coming in. And again, I'd be remiss because to be able to follow that team on that journey, get into the NCAA tournament, it really was remarkable. And I know, Bryce, for you, then having the opportunity to coach at your alma mater and play there, you've been on now all sides of this thing. How was that time coaching for you to be able to see the game from off the field on the sidelines? How has that changed kind of you as a player, having now seeing it as a coach?
Yeah, for me personally, I think it helped my development a lot. I mean, I would have film sessions with Coach Fisher and shooting sessions, and you know, sometimes he tells you something, you're like, no, I didn't do that. I'm not that dumb, right? And then you get on the coaching sidelines and you start watching film and breaking down stuff with the guys, and I kind of think back, like, yeah, maybe I was that stupid some of those plays, like. So I think it really helps you take a step back and you get to see more of the cerebral side of the game, which really helped me going from my first summer as a pro going into my second year. And I obviously had a great jump in production from those 2 years. And I think I attributed a lot to coaching. And I mean, I attributed a lot to those guys on the field. I mean, they were my teammates the year before, right? It could have been a weird thing and they could have told me to go talk to the freshmen. I'm not listening to you, Bryce, but I think everyone kind of really bought into it and allowed me to kind of coach them and help them. And I also knew that they were still my teammates and my brothers from the year before. So it wasn't going to be like a big screaming thing. So I think it was an awesome dynamic that we had a lot of fun with. Me and Coach Fisher. We still joke about that year more than all the other years combined to this day.
The questions continue to come in for Bryce. The next question comes in from Heather Bradley, who one of our graduate assistants with the Monmouth Athletics Department, and Heather watching here this evening. And Bryce, Heather wants to know, what is your favorite goal song from your Monmouth home game experiences?
You guys played too many for me to even pick one. That was the best part of those home games was the job that those marketing guys put on. Heather, Kelly, I love you guys. Thanks for all the work that you did. I was a big fan of Swag Surf, and that always got me hyped. They never played it for me, but that always got me pretty pumped up.
Can we bring that into your professional career? Maybe we could talk to someone with the Boston Cannons?
Yeah, hopefully they're tuned in right now. If not, then they missed out.
As we continue to chat here with Bryce, who's on his road to becoming a lawyer, but it was just a tremendous lacrosse, and still is, player in his time at Monmouth and now moving on. And that memorable run through the bubble, the MLL bubble down in Annapolis. But our next question, Bryce, comes in. Lynn is in Jackson tonight. And Lynn, we always appreciate you checking out our Hawk Talk and contributing with a question. We want to talk now about the other lacrosse league. And Lynn's question, Bryce, for you is, what are your thoughts on the PLL, and have you had a chance to watch some of the other leagues?
Yeah, they played after us. A few friends in that league love those guys, and I mean, it's just kind of the opposite of our thing, right? We've got city based teams. We got the Boston Cannons, Denver Outlaws, right? We represent our cities, and I have a lot of fun with that. I was able to represent my hometown in Dallas my sophomore year, which was an incredible experience for me. And they kind of do the travel model and travel around kind of like a NASCAR weekend and play a couple games on Friday night, Saturday, and leave. And I mean, they're all still some of my great friends. There's no beef or anything between the leagues. Everyone just kind of picks what they're most comfortable with and what fits along with their life and their goals. So I'm a Boston Cannon, and it definitely worked out pretty well this past summer. But yeah, I respect all those guys.
And that is interesting how I think you explained it well. It really fits into however you choose to continue your career, if you're lucky enough to be able to do that, whether it's the MLL model or the PLL model. And, Bryce, I'm kind of curious now, obviously so many of our fans know about the Monmouth players that have moved on, for example, to the NFL, or the Monmouth player that's with the Mets right now, Brad Brock. But how is professional lacrosse a little different? I think you've alluded to it a little bit, where you have to have a career and then you can also play lacrosse as well. But does that make it harder? Does it make it easier to kind of stay involved in the game? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think it makes it easier. I love the way that our league is set up. Just lets guys be able to pursue whatever their dreams are off the field. Obviously, I wouldn't be able to go to school and continue my education experience if it wasn't set up the way that it was. So I'm personally very thankful for it. And I think that it's an incredible storyline, right? I mean, those guys in the NBA, that's all they do. They just show up to the facility from 8 to 2, and that's their day, right? And I think that it gives pro lacrosse this added dynamic that a lot of sports don't have. And do I hope that one day my kids will be able to go play pro and it's their only profession? Yeah, of course. But I mean, you got to think about it too. The NFL is 50-something years old. When they first started, all those dudes on the Packers, they were in the cheese packing plant, and then we're playing on Sundays, right? So I mean, I think everything's got to start somewhere. I think we will get there one day, but I think for now it kind of gives us this extra dynamic that isn't really seen in pro sports, that kind of second life Hannah Montana kind of thing, where everyone kind of has their own off the field story before they get to the game on Saturday. I mean, you talk about like my line mates, Mark Cockerton, he's a college coach, and Randy Stotts, he's full-time lacrosse and plays indoor, and we got guys who work on Wall Street and fly in, and they're some of the best players on earth, and I'm in law school, so I think it kind of gives this extra dynamic that we have that other sports don't.
You have a question for Bryce. Again, we ask you please submit it into our Facebook Live chat. And I think that's an interesting point that you bring up, Bryce, and it always interested me, especially when lacrosse came to Monmouth, and then we all got more familiar with the professional ranks. But there's another Hawk who's made some news today as well, keeping with the theme of professional sports. And I know you were a great football player back in the day. Obviously, you're a tremendous lacrosse player, but how about the news that Pete Guerrero signed with the New York Jets today? Just tremendous.
Yeah, I think we definitely have to give credit to Pete. He's one of the hardest workers I've ever seen. I mean, it's a funny story. I remember meeting Pete when he was a freshman and I was a senior about to get out of Monmouth, and I was drafted at that point. And I remember I never even met Pete before. I mean, I heard about him, this track stud who was our new running back, and he came up to me in the training room. I remember I was in there doing an ice bath, and he came up and he was like, "Hey, what's up, man? I'm Pete. Congrats on getting drafted. Like, I'm going to do that." And I was like, "Yeah, you are. Like, let's do this. Let's get after it." And I couldn't have been more happy for him and all the hard work and all the accomplishments that he got, and kind of being able to look back to that day when he came up to me in the training room saying, "Congrats on going pro. I'm doing it too. Like, let's do this." I think that's really special, and I couldn't be more excited for him going into training camp.
That's an unbelievable story. I had no idea it went that far, that on the day we have you on Hawk Talk and Pete gets signed by the Jets, that story there, full circle's been a theme for this conversation, but that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I'm excited for Pete. Like you said, Monmouth North, right? We got Chris Hogan, Pete Guerrero now. So, Pete, if you see this, go get him, man. I couldn't be more pumped for you. Hawks and the Pros, we keep growing day by day.
Yeah, that hashtag is going to be, it's used now across a variety of sports, whether it's NFL football, Major League Baseball, Major League Lacrosse. Truly is remarkable. That fraternity of Monmouth professional athletes that I know, Pete, Hakeem Vallis, who spent some time in the NFL, Reggie White Jr. last year with the Giants. It really is remarkable. Bryce, to go and become a professional like yourself, like Pete, like all those guys I just mentioned, from a school like Monmouth, what does that take? And really, what does that mean to you as a grad from a prideful standpoint?
Yeah, I think there was a mutual respect of all the hard work, right? Like you talk about a guy like Justin Robinson. There wasn't a day that he wasn't the last guy off the court at practice, right? And I kind of wanted to emulate that as a young kid. I saw all the success he was having. I was a freshman and sophomore. I wanted to be the last guy off of our practice field. And you talk about Hakeem and Reggie, they were the same way. And I think that there's a shared pride and just kind of being able to take the Monmouth brand, if you want to call it that, to new heights. And I think that that's something that we all kind of take a lot of pride in. I mean, if you want to look back on it, you can put it in air quotes. Don't quote me, but I mean, it was kind of the renaissance of Monmouth athletics in a sense. Was this kind of these past 5 to 10 years of an era was really special to be a part of, not only just on the lacrosse team, but just as a student athlete in general. I mean, you talk about the football program, the soccer programs, field hockey, basketball, the success that everyone had across the board. I think it was something that was really special to be a part of.
And there's been so many success stories. You mentioned it, and obviously, I think I've said his name more than anyone's in his time at Monmouth, but Justin Robinson now in Italy. And even one step further, Dylan Capwell on the track, Allie Wilson, they've gone on to do great things. Maddie Gibson, women's soccer. It really is, it's unbelievable when you sit down and think about the group that you're a member of Monmouth student athletes that can call themselves professionals. It really is remarkable. And to hear you talk about it with the pride that you do, it means a lot, I think, to all of us that follow the team and all the fans watching right now, that it means as much, if not more, to you as it does to all of the people that support you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the best part about it, is being able to see Monmouth University pop up under my name on ESPN and things like that. I think that that's just as much, if not more, fun than playing the pro games. I think representing Monmouth and being able to kind of show everyone what the crown jewel of the Jersey Shore is all about has been really fun.
Our next question that comes in for Bryce might be just the best question that we've got for him just yet. And when you hear who it comes from, I think it'll make a little bit of sense. And Bryce, Jay is checking in this evening, and Jay wants to know, where did you get your athletic ability from?
Why does he always do this? Oh my gosh. So my dad played football at Towson University. He's a Hall of Fame defensive back down there. He always gets upset at me because he thinks I don't give him credit for my athleticism. I'll give it half to you, Dad, maybe 30% to Mom, and then 20% to hard work. But I definitely think a chunk of my athleticism is because of you. So thank you for that, Dad. Yeah, so there's your credit. I hope you're happy. Mom and Dad, hi, I miss you guys. I hope you're doing well empty nesting.
And now it's recorded too, because this will live for, forever. It's on the internet now. So there it is. It is recorded, that answer, and I'm sure he'll play it back for you 100 times.
Yep.
Well, Bryce, we really want to thank you for joining us here this evening. You've had a whirlwind few months, really, since leaving Monmouth, and to be able to give us a couple of minutes, it really does mean a lot. And for all of your success and all the success that has yet to happen, just congratulations, and we wish you the best of luck, and really thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Fly Hawks, everybody. Everybody stay safe. I hope I can make it up to the Jersey Shore real soon.
That's Bryce Wasserman, the reigning MLL MVP and Monmouth University champion, leading the Hawks men's lacrosse program, part of a group that led him to the program's first ever NCAA tournament. If you missed any of our conversation tonight, you can check it out in the video tab here on the Athletics Facebook page, youtube.com/MonmouthHawks, and at the online home of Monmouth Athletics, that's MonmouthHawks.com. For Bryce and all of us here at the Monmouth Digital Network, I'm Eddie Acapinti saying good night.